Very good. You like you podium.
Perhaps the podium, what do you think?
Yeah, it's very good. That's always better.
Yeah, okay. Walk away.
Excellency, Kenneth Nobrega, Ambassador of Brazil to India, Excellencies, members of diplomatic community, USI members, officers, distinguished guests, and our friends who are connected on the virtually connected with us. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the USI, I extend a very warm welcome to you all to today's event. I thank Excellency for accepting our request to share his thoughts on Brazil's trajectory and bilateral relations with India with the USI fraternity. India-Brazil relations took shape with the establishment of diplomatic relations in 1948 and is based on a common global vision, shared democratic values, and committed to the foster of economic growth and social inclusion for the welfare of people of both countries. Brazil is an advanced emerging economy, being the 10th largest GDP in the world and largest in the Latin America. Trade between Brazil and India has reached a historic high and has exceeded now 15 billion US dollars. Both countries share a very close and multifaceted relationship at bilateral level as well as in the plurilateral fora such as BRICS, BASIC, G20, G4, and IBSA, International Solar Alliance, as well as in the larger multilateral bodies like UN, WTO, UNESCO, and World Intellectual Property Organization. Our relationship has strengthened significantly over the recent decades, grounded in the shared interest as large, diverse, developing economies with the aspiration for greater influence on the global stage. Our defense and industrial cooperation flows out of our bilateral relationship and establishment of India-Brazil Business Forum as a dedicated platform for private sector collaboration is a step in a very right direction. Two countries have been strategic partners since 2006 and has continued to intensify with a number of high-level engagements as well as identification of cooperation opportunity. Today, our cooperation spans from the strategic, defense, political, economical, technological, and agriculture and the cultural area also. In a joint statement by PM Modi and President Lula in September 23 on the sideline of G20, highlighted the economic exchange between Brazil and India have a potential for further growth, including defense cooperation, and encourage the defense industries from both sides to explore new collaboration avenues and commence joint projects to co-produce technologically advanced defense products and build supply chain resilience. As both leaders again met on the sideline of G20 summit last month to take stock of the full range of bilateral ties between both the nations and reaffirmed commitment to improve the cooperation in the sectors like energy, biofuel, defense, agriculture, and many more sectors. Outcome of this is that two Brazilian defense firms already established their production units in India. And now Embraer has proposed to establish not only assembly line, but manufacturing C390 aircraft in India in collaboration with Mahindra's. This is still in the pipeline. Both countries recognize the strategic importance of cooperation, not only for their national interest, but also for their role in advocating for the interest of the global South. Our alignment in the international forums growing economic ties, and people-to-people exchange underscores a promising future for the bilateral relationship. To tell us more about Brazil's trajectory and bilateral relations with India, we are privileged to have Excellency Kenneth Nobrega, Ambassador of Brazil to India, today with us. Few words about the Excellency. Excellency is a career diplomat with an interest in economics, intellectual property, and the music. In his diplomatic career, Excellency has held various important appointments at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Few important ones are Secretary of State for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, Director of Inter-Regional Mechanism, BRICS and IBSA Sherpa, and Trade Policy Advisor to the Foreign Minister. His diplomatic assignments include at the Embassy of Brazil in Washington and Berlin, and the permanent delegation to WTO as the Brazilian delegates for the various service negotiations. He was also an instructor at Brazilian Diplomatic Academy and taught international negotiation techniques. So with these words, now I request Excellency for his address. Over to you, sir.
Good morning, Major General Sharma, Director General of USI, Major General Goswami, Deputy Director General of USI, esteemed officers and authorities, my friend, the Ambassador, Excellency Ambassador of Portugal to India, friends of Brazil, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed an honor to speak at such a respected institute, recognized for its role in shaping the strategic thought and national security policies in India. It has been a little over a year since I arrived in Delhi to begin my mission as Ambassador of Brazil to India. And the moment couldn't be more auspicious for our bilateral relations. Our long-standing friendship has been gaining in breadth and depth in a challenging international geopolitical environment. In such challenging environment, finding secure paths to socio-economic development requires new approaches to economic complementarities and, above all, mutual trust. We have witnessed in the last year and a half, more or less, an unprecedented number of missions from both countries seizing booming opportunities for trade and investment, technical cooperation, and industrial partnerships. And as you will notice, defense is a key element in this process. I will start briefly recalling the historical background of our bilateral relations. As you know, Brazil and India celebrated in 2023 75 years of diplomatic relations. Throughout these more than 7 decades, our bilateral relations have been characterized, as you may know, by consistent coordination in multilateral and plurilateral fora, based on shared values, converging perceptions, and common interests. I venture to say that the core common goal has been to promote a more democratic and inclusive world order that benefits the global South. We aim for a world where our countries are accorded the respect and influence befitting their size, population, and cultural significance, and commensurate with their strategic and economic weight. In trade and environmental fora, for instance, we have been consistently striving to guarantee regulatory policy space to carry out our national projects of economic, technological, and social development. We always resisted, I dare to say, the idea of being mere rule takers, be it in the geopolitical, social, economic, or environmental fields, among other fields. We refuse to define our foreign policy in relation to issues and interests which are not inherently ours. In the first decade of this century, our coordination was further strengthened in groups and coalitions such as IPSA, BRICS, G4, BASIC, and of course, G20. As we recall, our strategic partnership was launched in 2006 during President Lula's first mandate. This partnership was re-energized when Honorable Prime Minister Modi and President Lula, met at the sidelines of the G20 summit in Delhi. In the joint statement issued at that occasion, our leaders committed to carry on the historic coordination in international fora, but they also envisioned a future for our bilateral relations that goes way beyond the political realm, much wider in scope, encompassing trade and investment, energy transition, defense, and science and technology. And just 2 weeks ago, on the margins of the most recent G20 summit in Rio, which took place in Rio de Janeiro, our leaders reaffirmed this pledge, and President Lula accepted Prime Minister Modi's invitation to pay an official visit to India next year. This clear direction from our leaders is rooted in the strong foundation of trust built over 7 decades of bilateral relations. Trust is paramount, especially in today's world where geopolitical and security concerns increasingly shape strategies and decisions across all domains, including trade, investment, and technology. As a matter of fact, this broader partnership envisaged by our leaders has already been taking shape in the last years, although much remains to be fulfilled, concretized. For instance, in the past 18 months, we received a total of 47 missions from Brazil of various formats and levels, looking for opportunities and expanding businesses, especially in the areas of defense, agriculture, and energy. And the larger number of Indian missions also visited Brazil throughout this same period. Just for the sake of giving some figures, which I think gives a more concrete idea of where we stand, bilateral trade has been increasingly steadily over the last years. In 2022, for example, we reached the record of $15 billion in bilateral trade, making India Brazil's 5th trade partner in that year. India sold more to Brazil than to Japan, to France, to Italy, or Russia. And this is a fact that got little attention from trade analysts. Regarding FDIs, the stocks of FDIs have also been growing. Brazilian companies have been investing in India, with important companies inaugurating or extending their presence here, like WEG, Pacem, Tramontina. Embraer has also been preparing for expanding its business in India. Indian FDI in Brazil is estimated at around $7 billion. This is a conservative estimate. I chose here to mention a conservative estimate. And this FDI stock has been growing recently with new investments by such iconic Indian companies like Bajaj, Hero, Mahindra, Sterlite, TCS, and UPL, among others. But the partnership we are building go way beyond the cold numbers of trade investments. We are committed to creating real connections between our industrial bases and value chains, taking advantages of new opportunities and natural synergies, such as to boost our national development strategies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm quite confident that Brazil and India are on a path to take concrete advantage of that long-standing and solid relations, which I mentioned has been built throughout more than 7 decades. And this will help us to face common challenges that are central to the socio-economic development of our countries, and at this historic moment of energy and industrial transition, and of course, as I mentioned at the outset, against the complex geopolitical background. At the beginning of my presentation, I mentioned that defense is a major element of this promising moment we are experiencing. Our highest authorities are fully on board with this movement. Since I arrived in India, we have had high-level visits from the commander of the Brazilian Army, of the Brazilian Navy, of the Air Force. Brazil sent the Brazilian chiefs of naval of naval and army staff. And from India to Brazil, we had the honor of receiving the visit of the chief of the Indian Air Force. And this, I'm not mentioning here, a number of secretary level visits from both sides. And there is a reason for that. Brazil and India are emerging global powers. We share a converging vision for a multipolar world. And as you know, in the current complex global scenario, it is more important than ever to strengthen ties with trusted partners. In this context, our long-standing friendship provides a solid foundation for partnerships in sensitive areas like defense. Sorry. Diversifying its defense supply seems to be in line with India's pursuit of strategic autonomy. And we believe Brazil offers a unique opportunity to diversify India's supply chains. Both our countries possess robust defense industries with complementary strength and can significantly benefit from a closer collaboration. For instance, India, with its advanced missile technology and electronics expertise, for instance, Brazil, with its capabilities in aviation, artillery, and armored vehicles. So, thanks to these solid foundations, I think we can comfortably explore joint ventures, co-development, and technology transfer initiatives in areas of mutual interest, and also thereby enhancing our country's defense capabilities and reducing costs. Many of these opportunities are already being shaped. Some examples. Just to give you a glimpse, Bell is operating, Bharat Electronics, of course, is opening an office in Brazil. Embraer signed an MOU with Mahindra and is also planning a major expansion of its presence in India. CBC and Taurus, two of the largest ammunitions and small arms companies in the world, Brazilian companies, have already started local production in India recently. Moreover, discussions are advancing for acquisition, co-development, and co-production of a wide range of military equipment, such as the Scorpion submarines, the Akash surface-to-air missile system, and offshore petrol vessels, to name but a few examples. Beyond the defense industry, there are also possible avenues for cooperation on the operational level. There are points of contact between our global defense priorities, in spite of the fact that we are geographically far from each other and situated in very different strategic environments. One that immediately comes to mind is the western coast of Africa, especially the Gulf of Guinea, where India has also been present with monitoring, naval deployments, and capacity building. A few facts you should bear in mind about Brazil when it comes to geopolitics. We have a coastline of 7,500 kilometers long. More than half of our population, 215 million by the latest estimates, more than half of this population lives within 150 kilometers of the coast. 97% of our international trade flows through the South Atlantic, and 95% of our oil reserves are located in the South Atlantic. Thus, the South Atlantic is considered an integral part of our strategic surrounding and a major theater for our national defense strategy. Within this larger theater, Brazil has a very specific concern with the Gulf of Guinea, which is broadly considered as the main source of instability in the South Atlantic. The Gulf became the world's hotspot for piracy, including cargo theft and hijacking for ransom, besides being a major route for the transnational organized crime, which uses the region for drug trafficking, human trafficking, and weapons smuggling. This situation raises freight prices, of course, and puts vessels and crews at risk, impacting negatively all maritime trade in the region. It also results in financial and due financial gains, both for the South American organized crime and the jihadist groups in the Sahel. These public security challenges I just mentioned are not only challenges for Brazil, and also for, of course, multiple other countries from both sides of the Atlantic, of course. Given this scenario, Brazil made a strategic decision to become more involved in security efforts in the Gulf of Guinea. The Brazilian government established a permanent interagency working group with the participation of Foreign Affairs, Defense, and Navy, which regularly assess the situation in the Gulf and coordinates new initiatives with countries in the region. We became full members of the Friends of the Gulf of Guinea group and took part in the creation of the so-called Yaoundé architecture, which is today the main regional mechanism to prevent and prosecute illicit activities in the waters of the Gulf of Guinea. Besides keeping a permanent Navy officer as a liaison to the Yaoundé architecture for the last decade, we have also regularly sent warships and personnel to take part in naval operations aimed at capacity building and supporting local security forces, like the Auburn Game Express, the Grand African Nemo. Two examples here, relevant examples here. And finally, our defense industry supported the implementation in Cameroon of a system of maritime traffic information, which was developed in Brazil, and it has been already used with quite a success in Brazil to monitor the entire Brazilian coast. And this system has been today used by most countries involved in monitoring the Gulf of Guinea. Another area in which Brazilian defense forces have an active international participation is in the UN peacekeeping operations, where India, of course, is recognized as the largest supplier of troops. Over more than 7 decades, more than 50,000 Brazilian personnel have taken part in roughly 60% of all peacekeeping operations, duly authorized, of course, by the UN Security Council. During this time, 41 Brazilian men and women lost their lives in United Nations service. Today, we have a presence in 22 missions in 14 countries, in close coordination with partner countries on the ground and relevant international organizations. Furthermore, the Brazilian Peace Operations Joint Training Center, the CCOPAB, as we call the acronym in Portuguese, has been a partner to the International Peace Organization, International Peace Operations Training Institute, and has been offering various courses and training programs to military and police personnel from different countries, including from India. Finally, it's important to mention that Brazil and India share a common aspiration to a permanent seat in a reformed United Nations Security Council. We are emerging global powers that share similar views on key global issues, as I have already mentioned. We have always traditionally championed democratic values, development, and international cooperation. Having served multiple terms as non-permanent members, Brazil and India have repeatedly demonstrated their commitment to multilateralism and global peace. A permanent seat for our countries in the Security Council would not only represent an increased voice for the Global South in matters of international peace and security, but would also better reflect contemporary geopolitical realities, giving us the opportunity to play a more significant role in shaping global governance. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I succeeded in giving you a short glimpse of where Brazil and India come from, where we meet, and where we can go together. Our shared vision for a multipolar world, coupled with our complementary strengths, put us into a unique position to jointly address global challenges and shape a more just and equitable future. By leveraging our strong bilateral ties, we can enhance our defense capabilities, foster economic growth, and contribute to promote peace and security throughout the world. I just here I wanted to leave you with my personal certainty that the strategic partnership between Brazil and India is on its way to reach new heights. And I must say that for me, these are indeed exciting times to be Brazilian ambassador to India. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency, for your sharing the views as far as the bilateral relation of India and Brazil is concerned. There is certainly no doubt that we both countries look towards each other with a lot of faith and hope, the mutual trust, and we are step by step moving forward. And particularly in the defense sector, large number of things are in pipeline. And hopefully in the near future, they will fructify in some form or other. We are collaborating at the multilateral level in various forums. So I hope in the days to come, with the now world gradually becoming the polycentric, with the number of issues being tackled at the international level, with the likely, not likely to the change of power in US, and with the new, hopefully the things at Russia, Ukraine, things will settle down in some form or other. We are looking towards a new world, maybe next year onward, taking shape in some form or other. And we both countries jointly, cooperatively move forward and to have our rightful space in the new world order. Now we'll open the floor for the question answers. We will take 2 to 3 questions in every